Austin has this strange way of being loud and lonely at the same time. You can walk down 6th Street and feel like you're part of something electric. Laughter spilling out of bars, live music vibrating through walls, people talking too loud because they don't want the night to end. But a few blocks away, that same city feels like another world. The air gets still, and the silence feels heavier than it should. That's where I worked. A little wine bar tucked between a tattoo shop and an art gallery. It wasn't much, but it paid the bills. I'd moved downtown 6 months earlier after splitting rent with 2 roommates in Hyde Park. I was 23, trying to figure out what I wanted out of life, or maybe just trying to keep the lights on. That April night started like any other. My last customers left a little after 1 in the morning. I counted my tips, locked the front door, and slipped the keys into my bag. The air outside smelled like wet concrete. It had rained earlier, just enough to make the streets shine under the neon. My sneakers squeaked slightly with each step. I remember feeling good, tired, but content. The kind of tired that means you've earned sleep. Then I heard footsteps behind me, soft, steady, matching my pace. When I glanced over my shoulder, I saw a girl about my age, long dark hair, denim jacket, messenger bag slung across her chest. She smiled when our eyes met. "Hey," she called. "You walking alone? Want to walk together? It's safer that way." Her tone was casual, friendly, maybe too friendly. Every safety video I'd ever watched flashed through my mind, but she didn't look dangerous. She looked like me. I hesitated. "Sure," I said finally. "I'm heading toward 8th. "Perfect," she said, quickening her steps to match mine. "I'm Kim." "Chloe," I replied. We fell into an easy rhythm, chatting about work, music, the weird Austin weather. She said she bartended a few blocks away and had just finished her shift too. I started to relax. She was funny, sarcastic, and surprisingly easy to talk to. We even laughed about our customers, the drunk flirters, the lousy tippers, the ones who thought bartender meant therapist. For a few blocks, it felt like a chance encounter that turned into instant friendship. But sometimes danger doesn't announce itself. It just waits for the right moment. We passed a late-night diner, its fluorescent lights humming through the windows, and a couple of men smoking near the curb. One of them muttered something under his breath as we walked by, and Kim rolled her eyes. "Ignore him," she said with a smirk. "Downtown creeps. Can't go one night without one." I laughed awkwardly, but her tone made me feel safe, like she'd done this before, like she knew how to handle herself. That confidence was comforting, even if something deep down told me to stay alert. "So you live around here?" I asked. "Yeah," she said. "Just off Pine Street." "You?" "About 10 blocks east," I said. "New apartment." "Oh, nice. You're close then." She smiled again. "You should stop by for a drink sometime. I've got a balcony view that's criminally underused." I smiled politely. "Maybe." We walked another block, and the streets got quieter. Fewer people, fewer lights. The hum of traffic faded behind us, replaced by the echo of our footsteps. She slowed near a narrow side street and gestured left. "This way's faster," she said. "I can cut through to my place." I hesitated. The street she pointed to was darker, lined with old brick apartments and flickering streetlights. "I usually stick to the main roads," I said. Kim laughed softly. "Come on, it's fine. I walk this way all the time." Something in her eyes changed then, not enough to notice if you weren't paying attention, but enough that I felt my pulse quicken. It wasn't warmth anymore. It was something else. Calculation, maybe. Still, I followed her. I told myself not to be paranoid, that I'd be back on the main road in 2 minutes. But as we turned the corner, the sound of the city vanished completely. The air was thick, heavy, quiet in a way that pressed against my skin. Kim looked over her shoulder and smiled again, but this time it didn't reach her eyes. "Almost there," she said. We stopped in front of a narrow building with cracked paint and a dim porch light. The windows upstairs were dark, but I caught a flicker, the curtain shifting slightly like someone was watching. "This your place?" I asked carefully. "Yeah," Kim said, brushing her hair behind her ear. "Don't judge. It's old, but it's mine. You live alone?" She smirked. "Mostly. Why, you jealous?" The words hit oddly. "No, just, asking." She stepped closer. "You want to come up for a drink? I've got tequila and bad taste in music. You'll love it." I forced a laugh. "I should probably head home. Early shift tomorrow." Her hand landed lightly on my arm. "Come on, just one drink." It wasn't a hard grip, but something about it made my chest tighten. I stepped back. "No, really, I should..." Her fingers tightened. "Don't walk away," she said, voice lower now. Almost a hiss. My body froze. Every instinct screamed, "Run!" But fear pinned me for half a second. Then a man's voice cut through the air. "Hey, you okay?" An older man stood across the street leaning on a cane. Mr. Ortega, the neighbor who swept his sidewalk every morning. I'd seen him before from the bar. Kim's expression changed instantly. Wide eyes, fake concern. "Oh, we're fine," she called sweetly. Then she leaned close to me and whispered, "Don't make a scene." That's when I pulled away. It happened fast. The door behind Kim opened. A shadow stepped forward, tall, broad-shouldered, face half hidden by the porch light. My heart slammed in my chest. The man looked at me and then at Kim. "You said she was alone," he said sharply. Kim's face drained of color. "Run!" he barked, and I didn't wait to find out why. My feet hit the wet pavement, slipping slightly as I sprinted toward the main street. Behind me, I heard shouting. Kim's angry voice, the man's louder one. My lungs burned. The sound of my own breathing filled my ears. The city lights blurred as I ran, passing storefronts and glowing windows until I reached the intersection near the highway overpass. I ducked behind a lamppost, hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone. I dialed 911. "Operator." "911, what's your emergency?" "Me. Someone tried to grab me. A woman. And there was a man." "Operator. Are you safe right now?" "Me. Yes, I think so. I'm by the overpass near Pine and 7th. Within minutes, flashing lights cut through the drizzle. Officer Fields approached, calm and deliberate, while another officer spoke to Mr. Ortega, who had followed at a distance. When I told Fields everything, his expression barely changed, but I could see the wheels turning behind his eyes. "You said she called herself Kim?" he asked. "Yeah. I don't know if that's her real name." He nodded. "We'll look into it. You did the right thing running." I stared down the street toward the dark house. The porch light was still on, but no one stood there anymore. The house on Pine Street turned out to be vacant. The locks were broken, the electricity stolen from a nearby line. The neighbors said a couple had been squatting there for weeks, a man and a woman. No one knew their names. For days I couldn't shake the adrenaline. Every noise made me jump. I double-checked my locks, avoided walking anywhere after sunset, and bought pepper spray and a personal alarm. When I told my manager what happened, she just shook her head. "City's full of people hiding who they really are," she said. Mr. Ortega stopped by the bar a week later. He handed me a small folded paper, a drawing his granddaughter made of the brave girl who ran. I still keep it tucked in my wallet. Months passed. I got better. I laughed again, trusted again, but never completely. Sometimes, when I walk home late and hear footsteps behind me, I still glance over my shoulder. Not out of fear exactly, but out of respect for that night. I learned something important, something simple. Evil doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes it smiles and offers to walk you home. I never thought I'd be back here, dating. Not after the way everything ended with Rachel. 4 years. 4 years of mornings that felt warm and nights that felt empty. She wasn't a villain. I guess she just wasn't me. But the constant fights, the small betrayals, and that collapsed engagement 2 weeks before the wedding left me hollow. I spent months drifting through the world in a fog, moving from apartment to office cubicle to couch without really noticing any of it. My friends called, texted, sometimes showed up at my door. "Ty, you need to get back out there," they'd say, eyes brimming with a mix of worry and impatience. I didn't want to get back out there. The idea of letting someone close again felt like touching a live wire, electric and dangerous. Yet somehow I swiped right. On a whim, I matched with Lena. Her photos were confident, magnetic, like she existed in a world I didn't belong to but wanted desperately to visit. The messages came fast, teasing. "I like men who take risks. Drinks tomorrow?" And I typed nervously, "Sure, let's do it." The day of the date, I didn't know if I was more nervous about seeing her or about the possibility that this could be just another disaster waiting to happen. I chose the copper lantern because it felt safe. Dim lights, jazz in the background, the hum of conversations and clinking glasses. It smelled faintly of whiskey and polished wood. I arrived early, sliding into a corner booth, letting the rain outside wash over the city streets like some cleansing ritual. When she arrived, my breath hitched slightly. Lena, or the woman claiming to be Lena, was even more striking in person. Black leather jacket, hair tied loosely, eyes that felt like they were sizing me up and daring me to move. She smiled like she knew something I didn't, and when she teased me about my sad boy energy, I laughed. The real kind, the kind I hadn't felt in months. "Drinks?" she asked, sliding into the booth across from me. I nodded. "Yeah, let's do that." The first hour was easy, comfortable. The conversation flowed, laughter punctuating our words. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "It's too loud here. Let's go somewhere quieter." I hesitated, but the warmth of her hand on my arm erased the hesitation like it had never existed. The lounge she led me to was smaller, more intimate, soft lighting, slow music, the kind that seemed to draw everything else away until it was just the two of us. She poured me a drink, fruity, sweet, almost innocent. I clinked glasses with her. "To new beginnings," she whispered. And then, black. I woke hours later in a bathtub filled with icy water. My head throbbed like a drum, and my body felt alien. I blinked against the harsh light, trying to remember the walk from the lounge, the taxi ride, anything. But it was gone. My phone, wallet, and watch were missing. The motel room was silent except for the dripping faucet. I stumbled outside barefoot, rain-slick pavement cold under my feet, and squinted at the morning sun catching the cracked motel sign. It didn't take long to realize I had been violated. The videos arrived later that day via email. Clips of me unconscious, positioned in ways that made my stomach churn, and a demand for $5,000. Threats to reach my employer if I didn't comply. I wanted to scream. I wanted to delete everything and pretend none of it had happened. But Erin, my sister, was the first person I told. Her voice was soft, reassuring, but firm. "Ty, this isn't your fault. They prey on people who want to feel alive again." I muttered, staring at the screen. I just wanted one normal night. It wasn't normal, not in any way. The woman I'd met wasn't Lena. She had no name, no history, just a fake profile crafted to lure me into a trap. Weeks later, while scrolling the dating app, a match appeared. Same photo, same smile. Name slightly altered, Lena M. Her bio read, "We all make mistakes. Some are worth repeating." I froze. The rain began again outside my apartment window, and for the first time I didn't move. The days following were a haze of fear and disbelief. I double-checked my accounts, deleted emails, and changed passwords, but my mind kept returning to her smile, to the way her hand had felt on mine. I replayed every moment, every word, looking for a warning I had missed. I called the police. They listened with polite patience, the kind reserved for someone telling a story that seemed plausible but could never be proven. They noted it as extortion and cybercrime, but offered little hope of recovering my money or even catching her. I realized the danger was deeper. It wasn't just me. There were others. Men and women lured in, violated, and left terrified. The truth was brutal. These were organized rings, sophisticated, patient, and untraceable. Erin checked in on me daily, worried I'd let the fear completely unravel me. "Ty, they don't get to define your life," she said, voice trembling with worry. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to reclaim some fragment of normalcy, but the thought of Lena, or whoever she really was, loomed over me constantly. Every message, every notification, every stranger on an app became a potential threat. Trust, once broken, couldn't be put back together easily. I stopped dating altogether. Coffee shops, bars, even the idea of conversation became fraught with anxiety. Yet life demanded motion. Work, friends, errands. I moved through them mechanically, wary of every interaction. Then, one night, my phone buzzed. Lena M., again. Same photo, same playful smile. My thumb hovered over the screen. I wanted to block, delete, erase the reminder of my helplessness, but I didn't. Part of me needed to understand why this was happening. Part of me still craved the connection I thought she offered. I stared at the screen long after the message notification faded. Fear, anger, and longing tangled together, a storm more violent than the one outside my apartment window. For the first time, I realized it wasn't just about money or humiliation. It was about the loss of control, the invasion of trust. Weeks passed. I never sent the money. I never replied. I learned to live with the tension, a constant hum beneath daily life. Lena M. remained a ghost in my phone, a reminder that predators existed in the spaces we trusted most. I learned small things, vet profiles, verify details, never go somewhere isolated with someone I barely knew. I learned to trust instincts over charm, skepticism over attraction. The sting of betrayal dulled with time, but the lesson remained sharp. I realized something else too. Life moves forward, even after trauma. Pain doesn't define every moment, but it teaches vigilance, respect for oneself, and the boundaries necessary to survive. Even months later, when the rain hits Chicago streets and the neon lights blur against puddles, I think of that night. I think of her hand on mine, of the whiskey, of the lure, and I remind myself that sometimes danger hides behind the most familiar smiles, but survival requires memory, courage, and self-respect. Trust must be earned, not assumed, and that self-respect and vigilance are essential safeguards in a world where appearances can be deceiving. Healing from betrayal requires courage, awareness, and the ability to reclaim control over your own life. When I first moved to Charlotte, I thought I was finally doing something right. I'd landed a steady remote job as a graphic designer for a small marketing firm, managed to scrape together a little savings, and found an apartment that actually felt like home. It wasn't fancy, just a 2-bedroom in a new complex tucked behind a grocery store and a row of coffee shops. I liked the quiet hum of suburban life, the sound of sprinklers at dawn, kids biking past after school, the faint hum of the highway far enough away to be comforting. My name's Emma Collins, and at 27, I thought I'd found the kind of peace people my age only dream about. The first week after moving in was a blur of cardboard boxes and trips to Target. The building manager, Mr. Hargrove, was a kind older man with thinning hair and a sun-faded polo shirt who always called everyone neighbor. He handed me my keys, smiled, and said, "You're right next to Alex Morton. Good guy, always willing to lend a hand." That was the first time I heard the name. Alex appeared about an hour after I started unloading. He was tall, maybe early 30s, with a tan and a friendly, practiced smile. "Need some help?" he asked, already lifting a box before I could answer. His apartment was right next to mine, 2B to my 2A, and over the next few days, he became a steady, helpful presence. He fixed my jammed window, helped me hang a shelf, and even brought over a cold beer one evening when I was unpacking late. "Welcome to the neighborhood," he said, clinking bottles. I laughed. Guess I owe you one already. He grinned. Guess so. I remember thinking how rare it was to meet someone so open, so willing to help. I'd been burned before, a breakup that left me feeling used and invisible, but Alex seemed different. Kind, attentive, neighborly, maybe even too neighborly. But I brushed that thought aside. He was just being nice. By the second week, I knew his schedule better than I meant to. He worked odd hours, sometimes leaving early in the morning, sometimes returning past midnight. I told myself it wasn't my business, but once or twice I caught him outside my window smoking, looking up like he was thinking deeply about something. When our eyes met, he'd smile and wave, as if to say nothing to worry about. And for a while I believed it. The first strange thing happened on a Tuesday night. I'd just gotten off a Zoom call with a client, shut down my laptop, and went to take out the trash. It was humid outside, thick air clinging to my skin. I tossed the bag in the bin, turned to go back, and noticed my apartment door was open. Not wide, just slightly ajar. My chest tightened. I knew I'd locked it. My building had key fob locks. They clicked loudly. I pushed the door open slowly, heart pounding, scanning every corner. Everything looked fine. Couch, TV, kitchen, nothing missing. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe I'd pulled the door but hadn't latched it completely. But that night I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed the door swinging open, the sound of the lock clicking earlier that evening. The next morning, I mentioned it to Alex in passing. Hey, weird thing. My door was open last night. Thought maybe you saw anyone around. He frowned thoughtfully, then smiled. Nah, but you should be careful. Not everyone around here is as friendly as me. The way he said it was teasing, but something in his tone made me uneasy. Still, I thanked him and went back inside. It was probably nothing, except it kept happening. Little, almost imperceptible things. A coffee mug moved slightly from where I left it. My desk chair turned at an odd angle. My bedroom window unlocked even though I never opened it. It was all small enough to make me question myself. Was I losing it? Forgetting things? Maybe working too much? Then one evening I found my living room lamp turned on when I came back from a grocery run. That's when the anxiety began to creep in. Slow, silent, steady. I told myself I was being paranoid. I even laughed with Alex about it once, pretending it didn't bother me. I'm starting to think my apartment's haunted, I joked. He smiled, that easy grin of his. Or maybe someone just likes your decorating. For the first time, I didn't laugh back. By late August, my apartment didn't feel like home anymore. I'd started locking my door even when I was inside, keeping curtains drawn, jumping at sounds I used to ignore. One afternoon, while watering the plants on my balcony, I found a small brass key taped underneath the welcome mat. My breath caught. The tape was still fresh. I picked it up, turning it over in my hand, wondering what it unlocked. My stomach dropped when I noticed a faint fingerprint on the metal. I waited for Alex in the hallway that evening. Hey, I said casually, holding up the key. This yours? He blinked, eyes flicking to it, then back to me. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes this time. Oh yeah, I must have dropped it while helping you last week. Thanks. I didn't believe him. What's it for? Storage unit, he said smoothly. Appreciate you finding it. I nodded, forcing a smile, but my hand shook after he left. That night I pushed a chair under the doorknob and slept with my phone on my chest. 2 days later, I woke up to find the balcony door slightly open. Just an inch, but it hadn't been before. I ran outside, heart racing, scanning the courtyard. A shadow moved behind Alex's blinds. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't imagining this. Someone had been inside. The next evening, I saw Alex waiting in the hallway. He smiled. Hey, you've been quiet. Everything okay? I forced a laugh. Just busy. You should come over for dinner sometime, he said lightly. I've been meaning to cook for you. Neighborly thing to do. No thanks, I said quickly, stepping past him. His smile faded. You don't trust me, do you? Alex. He leaned in slightly, voice lower. You don't have to be afraid, Emma. I backed up. I'm not. He smiled again, but it was cold this time. Good. I locked myself inside and called the police. Officer Lee came by an hour later. Calm, professional, respectful. He changed my locks, filed a report, and installed a temporary latch. If anything else happens, you call us immediately. That night, I heard footsteps outside my door. Slow, deliberate. They stopped just long enough for me to know he was there, listening. Within 2 weeks, I moved out. Packed everything in silence, avoiding the window, ignoring the feeling of eyes on me from next door. Officer Lee helped me file a restraining order, but Alex never resisted, never contacted me again. It was almost like he'd vanished. I found a new apartment across town. Different layout, brighter colors, safer locks. But every time I close my eyes, I still see that faint smirk, that glint of amusement in his eyes when he said, "You don't have to be afraid." Now, when I hear footsteps in the hallway, my body tenses. When I leave for groceries, I double-check every lock. And at night, I keep the lights low but never off. Because even though I left that apartment behind, I didn't leave the fear. It followed me, quiet, invisible, familiar. I guess some neighbors never really move away. Rain makes everything feel heavier. Streets, air, thoughts. That night, April 2023, Chicago was soaked in it. The rusty Anchor bar sat half buried in shadows under a flickering neon sign that buzzed like a dying light bulb. I remember muttering to myself, "Nothing can go wrong tonight." That should have been the first red flag. It had been 2 years since I left the Navy. 10 years of structured chaos had wired my brain for orders, missions, and danger, but not for what came after. Routine. Civilian life felt too still, too slow, like the world had been paused and no one told me. I tried college because everyone said that's what I was supposed to do. History major. It fit in a way. Looking backward made more sense than thinking about the future. People told me I looked fine, but fine doesn't mean normal. I hadn't been on a date in over a year. My ex, Tess, had ghosted me right before deployment. No goodbye, no explanation. Just silence. That kind of thing changes how you read people. You start seeing what they hide behind smiles. I met Isla on a dating app. Her profile wasn't like the others. No selfies at the beach, no inspirational quotes. Just a photo of her in a library, face half hidden by a paperback copy of the Maltese Falcon. Her bio said, "Coffee or conversation, whichever lasts longer." I typed, "I'm better at conversation than coffee." She replied within minutes, "Then let's test that theory. Coffee first or drinks?" That's how we landed on the rusty Anchor. I almost bailed twice that afternoon. I told myself I'd just show up, have one drink, make polite conversation, and leave before midnight. Simple, controlled, safe. When I walked in, the place smelled like old wood and spiced cider. A blues track hummed through the speakers. She was already there, hair pulled back, red scarf, calm posture that looked practiced. When she saw me scanning the room, she grinned. "You're used to scanning rooms, aren't you?" "You could say that," I said, forcing a smile. "Military?" "Yeah, Navy." "Thought so. You've got that posture that says, 'I know where every exit is.'" That made me laugh, which surprised both of us. The bartender nodded when I ordered whiskey. Neat. Isla got gin with lime. For the first half hour, it was easy. Talk about favorite movies, music, Chicago winters. She told me she was a freelance editor, said she liked stories about people who weren't who they said they were. Maybe I should have caught the irony there. About an hour in, the conversation took a turn. She leaned in, lowering her voice. "Can I tell you something weird?" "Sure." I used to have a stalker. I tensed up instantly. Old instincts, scanning for exits, gauging her tone, checking the mirror behind the bar. It's not dangerous anymore, she added quickly, laughing it off. He was just intense. Followed me online, once waited outside my building. But I filed a report. Haven't seen him since. I nodded, but something in her casual tone didn't sit right. Her hand stayed still on the table, but her eyes kept flicking toward the fogged-up window. You okay? I asked. Yeah, she said, just making sure he's not out there. She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. I took a sip of whiskey and told myself I was overreacting. PTSD plays tricks sometimes, turns shadows into threats. When I offered to walk her to her car, she surprised me. Actually, she said, I'll drive you. You've been drinking, right? Safety first. There was something so confident about the way she said it that I didn't argue. We left together, her umbrella slicing through the rain. Her apartment was on the north side, a narrow 2-story building near a park. She said her roommate was gone for the weekend. When we stepped inside, something immediately felt off. The door was unlocked. Thought you said your roommate wasn't home, I said. She's not, Isla replied lightly. I must have forgotten to lock it, it's a safe neighborhood. But her kitchen counter told a different story. A bowl of cereal half full, milk still glistening, spoon untouched. The kind of detail that screams, someone just left in a hurry. She caught me staring. Relax, she said. I don't bite. You're acting like you're clearing a room. Force of habit, I said. She poured 2 glasses of wine, motioning me toward the couch. I noticed a baseball bat leaning by the door. You play? I asked. Not really, just feel safer having it around. That's when a shadow moved past the window. A figure, hooded, paused, then gone. I stood immediately, scanning. You see that? See what? She said too quickly. Someone's outside. She barely glanced toward the window. Ignore it. It's nothing. Her calm unnerved me more than the shadow did. I waited for her to call the police, to check the lock, to react. She didn't. I excused myself 5 minutes later, said I had an early morning class. She smiled, unbothered. Sure, she said softly. Text me when you get home, soldier. Back in my dorm, the silence hit hard. I kept replaying everything, the cereal, the shadow, her steady voice. None of it added up. The next morning I called my sister Marcy. She was the rational one. You think she staged it? She asked. Maybe. Or maybe I'm reading into things, but the whole night felt orchestrated. You've been on alert for years, Nate. Maybe you're seeing ghosts. Yeah, I muttered. Maybe. But I couldn't shake it. I checked the app that night. Her profile was gone, deleted. When I reported it, the app said, user not found. 2 weeks passed. Every time I passed the rusty anchor, I caught myself glancing through the window, half expecting to see her sitting there with that red scarf. I told myself to forget it. Move on. Then one evening, a message popped up on my phone from an unknown number. You're good at spotting exits. Most people don't notice details. That's what I liked. No name, no context. Just that. I didn't reply. Months went by. I deleted the dating apps, focused on school, therapy, and getting back into running. But late at night, when the city went quiet, I'd think about that night. The cereal bowl, the calm smile, the test I didn't know I was taking. Was she the stalker? Was she baiting one? Or was I the experiment, seeing how a trained man reacted under false pressure? The truth didn't matter. What stayed with me was the feeling that somewhere in that apartment the real story had already been written and I'd just wandered into the last chapter. Sometimes I walk past the rusty anchor again. Same flickering sign, same cracked sidewalk. Every puddle reflects the same question I still don't have an answer for. What if she wasn't testing me to find safety? What if she was testing how fear works? In a world where people share more than they should and trust faster than they think, not every danger hides in the dark. Some sit right across the table, smiling, curious, and watching how you react. Never ignore the unease that keeps you alive. Instinct is not paranoia. It's experience remembering what safety costs. I was 11 years old the first time I stayed home alone overnight. It was June 2012 in our quiet neighborhood in Boulder, Colorado. The kind of place where people left bikes on lawns and kids still played tag past sunset. My parents both worked long hours, and that night they had a corporate dinner at the country club. I'd begged them to let me stay home instead of tagging along. "I'm not a little kid anymore," I'd said. Mom hesitated, looking at Dad, and he gave a small smile. "All right, champ, just one night. Don't open the door for anyone, okay? And call Mrs. Langford if anything happens." Mrs. Langford was our 70-something neighbor, the unofficial guardian of Alder Street. She always wore house slippers and smelled faintly of lavender soap. She'd wave from her porch every morning, coffee cup in hand. When they finally drove off, I felt a strange rush of pride. The house was mine. I microwaved leftover pizza, watched cartoons, and sprawled across the couch like a king. The air smelled of barbecue smoke from a neighbor's grill, and the hum of the ceiling fan made the house feel alive. It was nearly 9:30 when I dozed off. Half a soda can still on the coffee table, the TV flashing blue light across the room. When I woke, everything was silent. The cartoons had switched to static, and the digital clock glowed. 10:32 p.m. That's when I felt it. A cool draft brushing against my leg. The back door was open. At first, I told myself I must have forgotten to lock it. Mom had warned me, but I'd been too excited. I walked over and pushed it shut, turning the deadbolt. The air outside smelled faintly metallic, like rain that never came. And that's when I heard it. A faint sound from above. Soft. Fragile. Crying. At first I thought it was the TV. I turned it off and stood there frozen. The crying didn't stop. It came from somewhere above me. Distant, but real. I whispered, "Mom?" Silence. Then I noticed something that shouldn't have been there. The attic ladder was down. I'd never seen it open before. It hung in the hallway ceiling, a narrow wooden staircase leading into darkness. Every part of me screamed to run, to get out. But curiosity is a strange thing when you're 11. It mixes with fear in a way that makes you do stupid things. I crept closer, my socks silent on the hardwood. The crying turned into low murmuring. Words, but jumbled. A woman's voice, maybe. "Hello?" I whispered. The murmuring stopped. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, I heard someone breathe. I bolted downstairs, grabbing the phone. My hands were shaking too much to dial. The house felt like it was holding its breath with me. I tried to remember what Mom had said. "Call Mrs. Langford if anything happens." Her number was written on a sticky note by the fridge, but the moment I reached for it, something creaked above me. I looked up. A shadow moved along the ceiling, slow, deliberate. I ran. I burst out the front door and sprinted across the yard barefoot. The night air felt thick and wet against my face. Mrs. Langford's porch light was still on, as always. I banged on her door, gasping, "Mrs. Langford, someone's in our house. Please." She opened the door, startled, wrapped in a floral robe. "Noah? What on earth?" Before I could answer, the sound came from behind me. The front door of my house slamming shut. Mrs. Langford's eyes went wide. "Get inside now." She called 911 while I tried to explain between sobs. "She's in the attic, crying. I think she came in the back door." Within minutes, a police car pulled up, lights flashing red and blue across the neighborhood lawns. Officer Reynolds, calm and tall, spoke softly as he crouched to my level. "You did the right thing, kiddo," he said. "You stay here with Mrs. Langford, all right?" They went in, flashlight sweeping through the windows. I stood by the curtain, clutching Mrs. Langford's hand. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, Officer Reynolds came out, leading a woman wrapped in a blanket. She was barefoot, her hair tangled, face pale and streaked with dirt. She looked terrified, not angry, not violent, just lost. That was Clara Wynne. Later, Officer Reynolds explained that Clara had wandered away from a mental health care facility 2 miles away. She wasn't armed or dangerous, just deeply disoriented. She thought she lived here, he told my parents when they came rushing home. Apparently, she's been looking for her old house, same model, different street. I sat on the couch, trembling, listening as adults spoke in hushed tones. I could still hear her voice in my head, the way she whispered, "I need to see my real face," over and over in the attic. Mom held me all night, apologizing again and again for leaving the back door unlocked. For weeks after, I couldn't sleep without a nightlight. Every creak in the walls made me freeze. I'd wake up from dreams where I heard crying above me. Dad tried to make it better. He installed new locks, an alarm system, even a motion sensor. But what I learned that night couldn't be fixed with hardware. It wasn't just about fear. It was about how fragile safety really is, how fast it can shatter. Now I'm 30, living 3 states away. I still lock my doors twice every night. My wife laughs about it sometimes, says I'm overly cautious. She doesn't know the whole story. I just tell her that once, when I was a kid, something scared me enough to never forget. But every summer evening when the light hits just right and the air smells like cut grass, I remember that night in Boulder. I can still picture the shadow at the top of the attic ladder, the sound of quiet crying drifting down. Sometimes I wonder what became of Clara Wynne. I looked her up years ago. She was re-hospitalized, then moved to a long-term care home. She never hurt anyone. She was just lost. And maybe that's the hardest part to reconcile. I was terrified of someone who needed help. That realization changed something in me. Fear kept me alive that night, but empathy kept me human afterward. Fear can protect us, but if we let it harden, it becomes something darker. True safety doesn't come from locked doors or alarm systems. It comes from awareness, from compassion, and from understanding that sometimes the monsters we imagine are just broken people, lost in their own darkness. Noah's story reminds us that vigilance and empathy must coexist, because one keeps us safe and the other keeps us human. The first frost of November 2024 glazed Portland with a brittle white sheen. I zipped my coat against the chill and paused outside. The Pine Lantern Cafe, watching my breath curl like smoke into the cold evening. Warm light spilled from the windows, golden against the frosted sidewalks, and for a moment I hesitated. I'd spent months scrolling through dating apps after the breakup, promising myself, just one person, one conversation, nothing more. I'd been in a relationship for 6 years that slowly eroded who I was. My ex was magnetic in public, funny, charming, full of easy smiles. But in private, he manipulated me, controlled me, and convinced me I couldn't trust anyone else. Friends drifted away under his subtle pressure, and family gatherings became battlegrounds for him to remind me that no one else could understand me like he did. After the breakup, nights became sleepless, filled with racing thoughts, and my mother called nightly. "Are you eating? Are you safe?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. "I'm fine, Mom," I'd said, forcing a smile, though my chest felt heavy with unease. 2 months ago, I matched with Evan on Hinge. His profile seemed harmless. Thoughtful quotes, carefully curated playlists. But he reached me in a way that felt safe. Texts ran long into the night, full of small jokes and questions about music, books, and childhood memories. It felt good to feel heard again, though that cautious whisper in my head said, "Be careful." Tonight, I was meeting him for the first time. The cafe was quiet, scented with cinnamon and roasted coffee. He was already there, seated by the window, scarf wrapped neatly around his neck, hands wrapped around a mug. "Natalie?" he asked, his voice hesitant but warm. "Evan, hi," I said, heart fluttering. Conversation flowed easily. We spoke about school memories, family traditions, small embarrassments from youth. His laugh was soft, unforced, and I felt myself relaxing in a way I hadn't for years. We talked about goals, hopes, the little dreams I hadn't shared online. As I glanced out the frosted window at the quiet street, I thought maybe I could let myself trust again. We lingered after the cafe closed, walking along the riverwalk. The night was crisp, stars hidden behind clouds, and the gentle hum of city life seemed distant. I remembered telling myself, it's okay to be cautious, but it's also okay to hope. Over the next 2 months, Evan and I fell into a rhythm. Coffee shops, quiet museums, long walks along cobbled streets. He remembered tiny details. My favorite pastry, the way I tucked my hair behind my ear, my mother's nightly calls. Each time I felt a little safer letting someone into my life. But then, one Friday, he vanished during a video call. The screen froze. Chat messages went unanswered. My stomach twisted. That creeping dread I thought I'd left behind returned like a shadow. A few days later, I noticed a white sedan parked across the street from my apartment. The engine hummed faintly, the headlights dimmed, but something about it made my pulse spike. Messages appeared on my phone from an unknown number. "You said you missed me." My hands shook as I dialed the number. A whisper came through the line, soft and familiar. "I didn't ghost you, I just moved closer." Panic washed over me. I called Claire, my best friend, my voice barely above a whisper. "Claire, he's outside, watching. He knows everything. My routines, my building, my apartment number." "Natalie, calm down, are you sure it's him?" "Yes, I would know that voice anywhere." "Then call the police. Don't handle it alone." The officers came quickly. They found cameras hidden in the vents, recording every move I'd made, every video chat. An SD card was labeled with dates that perfectly aligned with my conversations with Evan. He wasn't just a stranger. I discovered he was my neighbor's son, recently released after serving time for stalking a former partner, using a fake profile, and stolen photos. I sat on my bed that night, trembling. My safe space had been violated. Tears blurred my vision, and I whispered into the emptiness of my room. Why did I let myself care? Mom called. "Honey, are you okay?" I'll be fine," I said, voice cracking. But the truth was, I wasn't. The following weeks were tense. I moved furniture, changed locks, installed alarms, and reached out to a therapist to process what had happened. I avoided dating apps entirely, afraid to let anyone close, afraid to feel the soft warmth I'd briefly experienced with Evan. Still, life went on. Work, friends, family calls. I found comfort in structure, in routines. I tried to reclaim my apartment as a sanctuary, but the anxiety lingered in small ways. Shadows in corners, the sound of tires on the street outside, a knock at the wrong hour. One night I noticed a window on the second floor of the building across the street. For an instant, I thought I saw a figure there, silhouetted against a dim interior light. My heart raced, hands clenching the coffee mug I'd been holding. I reminded myself of the police report, of evidence, of boundaries I'd set. The figure was gone when I blinked. I realized then that my fear wasn't just about Evan. It was about trust. My mind had been conditioned to doubt my instincts, to second-guess myself. But slowly, the more I practiced vigilance, the more I reclaimed ownership of my life. I journaled every night, turning anxiety into analysis, unease into lessons. Months passed. I returned to the cafe, sat by the window, and watched Portland's streets. I walked along the waterfront, alone but steady, testing my sense of safety. I reconnected with friends I had allowed to drift away during my controlling relationship. Then, one morning, I returned to my apartment and found a folded envelope slipped under the door. No return address. Inside was a photograph of my hallway, time-stamped months ago, but from an angle I didn't recognize. Beneath it was a note, precise and small. I remember everything, but now you do too. My chest tightened, a cold tremor sliding down my spine. But along with fear, I felt resolve. I had survived. I had grown. And even though someone, or something, had crossed the boundaries of my life, I had rebuilt my strength, my awareness, and my boundaries. The first winter storm of December brought snow thick enough to silence the city. I shoveled the driveway, headphones on, but my mind remained alert, tuned to details. Vehicles passing, footsteps on ice, lights flickering in neighboring apartments. I returned home, placing a kettle on the stove and checking the locks one last time. Sitting down with a notebook, I realized something. The fear, the betrayal, the violation. They had shaped me, but not broken me. I had learned to listen to intuition, to trust instincts, and to protect my emotional and physical space. The envelope, the photograph, the whispered voice. These were remnants of someone else's recklessness, not my weakness. I had the power to control my reactions, to set boundaries, to rebuild trust slowly, but deliberately. And as I closed the notebook, I whispered to myself, I am not afraid of life, just careful. I am not broken. I am vigilant. I am alive. Life will sometimes place people in your path who betray trust, manipulate, or violate your sense of safety. True resilience comes not from blind hope or avoidance, but from learning to listen to your instincts, establish boundaries, and reclaim your personal power. Fear can be transformative if you allow it to teach vigilance, self-respect, and courage. I hadn't intended to be back on a dating app. After a 6-year relationship that ended more with exhaustion than heartbreak, I swore off swiping for strangers. But loneliness has a subtle way of sneaking in under the guise of new beginnings. My best friend Jenna kept nudging me. Just try it, she said. You might be surprised. I downloaded the app one Sunday evening, half-hearted, and spent 30 minutes scrolling through profiles. Half the faces blurred into the same filtered smiles, the same carefully curated poses. Then I saw him. Ethan Parker. 30. A barista and amateur photographer who claimed he could make the best cappuccino in Texas. His photos weren't overdone, just natural, and his bio made me laugh. Professional overthinker, part-time pizza enthusiast. I swiped right on impulse, more for curiosity than hope. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. Ethan had swiped right on me too. A week of messaging began with light jokes about latte art fails, favorite music, and hiking trails. There was a rhythm to our conversation that felt effortless. Then came Friday, the day we decided to meet. I dressed carefully, choosing a casual dress I felt confident in and sneakers for comfort. The rooftop bar he suggested was downtown, a quiet spot with fairy lights and a view of the city skyline. My stomach fluttered in anticipation. I arrived first, ordered a drink, and picked a table near the edge so I could see the whole bar. Ethan appeared 20 minutes later carrying a bouquet of daisies, an oddly sweet touch. "Hey, you're even better in person," he said, voice easy, a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. I felt a blush creep across my cheeks. "Thanks. You're not so bad yourself," I replied, tucking my hair behind my ear. We laughed, exchanged stories about ridiculous jobs we'd had, and shared a few small secrets. I was surprised at how comfortable I felt. But as the night went on, little things began to nag at me. He reached across the table a bit too eagerly when I mentioned my drink. "I can hold that for you," he said, grabbing my hand lightly. I pulled back subtly. He smiled, but his eyes lingered, and a small prick of unease crept into my chest. I brushed it off, telling myself I was imagining things. Ethan suggested moving to a quieter spot on the rooftop, closer to the edge where fewer people were sitting. "It'll be more private. I don't like crowds," he said, almost pleading. I hesitated. My gut screamed caution, but the night had been so easy so far. We slid into the secluded corner and the view of the city lights distracted me for a moment. The conversation continued, but a subtle tension hovered. Ethan's questions shifted from casual to pointed. "Where do you live exactly? Who else knows you're out tonight?" I felt my stomach tighten. "I don't usually share that info right away," I said cautiously, trying to keep the tone light. He laughed, but it was sharp. "Fair enough. Just seems, I don't know, distant." His hand brushed mine again, lingering this time. I withdrew slowly. "I like keeping some things private," I said firmly. The rest of the night felt off. Ethan made small comments about my outfit and the way I held my drink that weren't flattering, like he was testing my reactions. I laughed nervously, hoping to smooth over my rising anxiety. When he insisted I try a drink he recommended, I politely declined. His smile flickered, a shadow crossing his face. On the way out, he suggested grabbing a ride to another bar that was even more intimate. I felt panic crawl up my spine. "Actually, I think I'll call it a night," I said. My voice was steady, but my heart raced. Ethan hesitated, his tone shifting. "Come on, don't go yet, we're just getting started." I shook my head. "No, really. I'm fine here." He didn't push physically, but the insistence in his tone left me uneasy. I left with a tight grip on my keys, my phone clutched like a lifeline. Walking through the streets of Austin, I realized how quickly charm could be a mask and how important it was to listen to that inner voice screaming caution. A week later, Ethan messaged, apologetic, claiming he just got caught up in the moment. I debated replying, but curiosity got the better of me. We exchanged casual texts, nothing heavy, nothing personal. Then came subtle nudges. "You should come out tonight. I just got a table at this place, you'd love it." Each time my intuition screamed no. But each text made me anxious. What if I overreacted? What if I was just being paranoid? One Thursday, he sent a message. "I feel like we have a connection. Don't shut me out. I really like you." I stared at the screen, heart hammering. It was flattering, but my skin crawled. I typed, deleted, typed again. Finally, I sent. "I think we should slow things down. I'm not comfortable moving this fast." Ethan's reply came almost immediately. "Are you saying you don't trust me? I'd never hurt you. Why are you being so distant?" I felt a rush of heat. I hadn't said anything about trust, just a desire for boundaries. But his reaction made me second-guess everything. I put my phone down, breathing deeply, and reminded myself that discomfort is a signal, not a flaw. I deserved to feel safe. Saturday night, I agreed to meet a friend at a coffee shop. While waiting, Ethan appeared, uninvited. My stomach dropped. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" I said, trying to mask panic with annoyance. "I just wanted to see you," he said too casually, stepping closer. My chest tightened. He wasn't listening to my boundaries. My hands clenched around my bag strap. "Listen, I've told you I'm not comfortable with this. You need to leave," I said firmly. His expression darkened. "I just don't get why you keep avoiding me. I like you." I realized in that moment that charm can't protect someone from their own insistence. I walked quickly to the counter, bought a drink, and didn't look back until I was outside, taking steady breaths in the cool night air. For hours afterward, my body shook, not from physical harm, but from the fear of someone who didn't respect my boundaries. I deleted his number. I deleted the dating app. Weeks later, I sit in my apartment with a candle burning on the kitchen counter. I still feel wary of unexpected approaches, but I also feel stronger. I've started joining local hobby groups, going to book clubs, even meeting friends of friends, slow introductions without pressure or screens. I've realized that attraction can mask danger, that charm doesn't equal safety, and that my instincts are my best guide. I can enjoy connections again, but on my own terms. I pick the places, I pick the company, and most importantly, I pick me. Every time I think of Ethan, I don't feel shame. I feel gratitude for the lessons learned. Trusting your instincts, setting firm boundaries, and prioritizing your own safety are more important than the thrill of attraction or charm. Real connection requires respect, patience, and mutual understanding. And if someone cannot honor that, it's not worth the risk.